Let's begin with a structural overview. Let's discuss Lou Koller. This is another lecture. Hello, I'm Alexei. In this context, a professor who spends more time than is reasonable thinking about how cultural systems endure under stress.
Hi, I'm Priyanka, the teaching assistant. I mostly ask questions that I hope are the right ones.
To frame our discussion, Lou Koller was an American punk vocalist, co-founder and frontman of Sick of It All, a pillar of New York hardcore, NYHC, across 4 decades. We observed that his contributions span performance, songwriting, touring strategy, and scene stewardship. In short, he helped turn a local dialect of punk into a lingua franca for global heavy music audiences.
Maybe the best place to begin is by asking a simple question. What exactly is NYHC? How is hardcore different from, regular punk? And what is an EP in this world?
Hardcore punk, that is to say, is a faster, heavier, compressed form of punk that prizes intensity and brevity, songs as direct communication rather than ornament. New York hardcore, or NYHC, refers to the community and sound centered in New York City that marries toughness with communal ethics and often explicit social critique. An EP is an extended play recording, longer than a single, shorter than a full album, frequently used to establish identity or bridge releases. In Koller's case, these terms describe the environment he shaped and the tools he used to broadcast that shaping.
So, moving on. Why does this matter beyond music trivia? What were the real-world stakes of what he and the band did?
It's crucial to understand that Sick of It All pursued a deliberate diffusion strategy. They played with non-hardcore bands, toured relentlessly across the Americas, Europe, Japan, and New Zealand, and framed NYHC not as a gate-kept subculture, but as exportable civic energy. The measurable consequence was durability, larger international audiences, intergenerational loyalty, and arguably, a template for how underground cultures scale without dissolving.
Isn't it interesting how NYHC sometimes gets written out of punk history except for a few names? Is that a misunderstanding we should correct here?
Of course, the historical literature has to some extent emphasized coastal scenes unevenly, or romanticized the first wave at the expense of the institutional builders who came later. Koller's career reminds us that infrastructure, tour routing, mixed bills, reliable output can be as historically significant as origin myths. Ignoring that understates how NYHC shaped global punk practice. Some essential facts briefly. Koller and his brother Pete grew up in Queens. Early listening included Deep Purple and Rainbow, later Black Sabbath and Motorhead, with Judas Priest as Lou's first real heavy metal inflection point. He co-founded Sick of It All in 1986 while still in high school. His vocal style, described by Revolver as super scratchy, often intimidating, sometimes melodic, was maintained through professional coaching. Melissa Cross notably advised him to keep his natural style while protecting it. His lyrics channeled community and politics in plain-spoken anthemic forms.
Can we anchor that with dates?
Certainly, the first show was in May 1986 at the Right Track Inn on Long Island. The first full-length, Blood, Sweat, and No Tears appeared in 1989 and is widely regarded as a landmark. Then a pivotal inflection came in 1994 with Scratch the Surface. By 1997, it had sold around 250,000 copies worldwide, catalyzing European growth. The catalog continued steadily to wake the sleeping dragon in 2018. Koller's birth year is reported as 1966 or 1967. More recently, he died in July 2026 at age 59, prompting tributes from across punk and metal, and memorably from CM Punk in another cultural arena entirely. A personal note, if you will. I first heard Sick of It All while procrastinating on a graduate topology problem. A friend slid a tape across a library table and said, "Solve this instead." I did not, in fact, solve the problem that night, but I learned a different lesson about elegant minimalism under pressure, hardcore as proof by direct construction. Moving forward, Priyanka, would you pose our three large questions so we can interrogate the structure of this legacy?
Sure. First, a historical one. What were the early challenges Sick of It All faced in establishing their identity?
Before we get to the complexities, the fundamentals. In 1986, the band formed quickly. Within weeks, they had a show. Early identity pressures included nomenclature, avoiding SOA to prevent confusion, and role clarity. Lou moved from bass to dedicated vocals. Then turnover. Original bassist and drummer exited. Armand Majidi and Rich Cipriano stepped in. We can infer that these substitutions, made without canceling momentum, created a pragmatic culture. Preserve the schedule, safeguard the name, and let the songs do the persuasion. By 1987, their self-titled EP encoded that identity in tape.
I'm curious about lineup stability. People often say chemistry matters more than anything, but here they swapped players and kept moving. How significant was that to their long-term coherence?
It's important to understand that stability for them was function first. When departures happened in 1990, they filled the rhythm section and maintained commitments. When Majidi and Cipriano returned by 1992 to record Just Look Around, the earlier chemistry was restored without having sacrificed continuity. The lesson is organizational. Define non-negotiables, name, message, work ethic, so personnel changes do not erase the through line.
So, in simpler terms, they kept the train running and the map clear, even if the conductor changed.
Precisely. Identity as timetable and destination, not as a single passenger.
Second, a counterfactual. What if Sick of It All had kept the name SOA?
Theoretically, confusion with an existing SOA would have introduced signal noise at precisely the moment a young band needs clean transmission. Branding in underground music is not corporate, but it is nonetheless semiotics under pressure. A non-distinct sign can delay recognition, complicate flyers, and blur word of mouth. By choosing Sick of It All, they obtained a unique handle that traveled well on records, shirts, and international posters. The name became a mnemonic for their ethos.
Can we say that renaming can also reset dynamics inside a band? Does a name choice change how members see their roles?
Arguably, yes. A distinct name acts as a shared project charter. It reduces ambiguity and invites members to align behaviors to that signal. In their case, it coincided with Lou's move to frontman, sharpening the division of labor and consequently the band's presentation. In simpler terms, unique name, clearer mission, tighter execution.
Third, a present-day question. What are the current challenges facing the legacy of NYHC?
Several tensions coexist. First, commercialization. When a subculture's symbols circulate widely, meaning can drift from practice to mere aesthetic. Second, authenticity maintenance. Scenes built on proximity and mutual aid can thin out when engagement migrates to screens. Third, memory curation. As founders pass, as I noted, Koller's death in 2026 was a seismic moment. There is risk of flattening a complex history into a few slogans. Counterweights include intentional community spaces, mixed bill booking that keeps dialogue alive, and notably stewardship roles. Koller, serving as a tour guide at the Punk Rock Museum in 2023, exemplified living memory in action.
What if we thought about solutions at the level of daily practice? What should artists and fans actually do?
Pragmatically, buy records and tickets from the source. Support benefit shows as the scene did for Koller in 2024 and 2026. Document stories before they vanish, and keep cross-pollination alive. Sick of It All's habit of playing with non-hardcore bands was not a gimmick, but a pedagogy. This brings us to a research frontier. Assess how digital media, recommendation algorithms, short-form video, either narrows or widens discovery pathways for regional subgenres like NYHC. Robust data there could inform scene strategy.
Maybe that's something we can come back to later. I like the idea of measuring how mixed bills perform in the algorithm era.
To summarize, Lou Koller co-founded and fronted Sick of It All, defined by a distinctive, fiercely delivered vocal style refined for longevity. He wrote lyrics that translated civic anxieties into participatory anthems, and he helped export NYHC globally through relentless touring and intentional outreach. We examined early identity challenges and pragmatic continuity. We considered the counterfactual of a confusing name, and we outlined present-day pressures on legacy alongside concrete mitigations. Further study would trace how global punk evolves as memory institutions, digital platforms, and local venues interact.
So, I guess that kind of sums it up. Thank you for listening.
This then completes our present analysis. Thank you and goodbye.